Hi, this is Alfozia Nihar from At Home Tuition. Welcome to our session today. The topic that we are going to discuss in our today's video is finding domain of the function. Let y equal to f of x be a function with an independent variable x and a dependent variable y. Let us see how to find the domain of any function f of x. Before that, let me give you the definition of domain and range. The domain of the function f of x is the set of all values for which the function is defined, and range of the function is the set of all values that f takes. So if you're going to learn about the domain, you should also be familiar with what a range is. Okay. So domain is the replacement set and range is the solution set. You can have this clue word so that you can remember what this concept is talking about. Okay, you can also call this as input and output of the function. Domain is the input and range is the output. If a function f provides a way to successfully produce a single value y, using for that purpose a value for x, then the chosen x value is said to belong to the domain of f. So if there is a requirement that a y value produced by the function must be a real number, you have to check for some common conditions. Let me list out those conditions. So before proceeding with domain of the function, you have to check all the following conditions that I'm going to let you know. Here are the conditions that should be commonly checked. Condition number 1. In case if you're dealing with a rational function like a fraction, the denominators cannot be equal to 0. And if you're getting a radicand of even roots, radicand means expression under a radical symbol. Even functions means you can take square roots like that. So those functions cannot have a negative value. In case if you're getting a logarithm problem, it can, hope you all know that logarithms can only be taken for positive values. In case if you're getting a word problem, to find the domain, it can be a physical or any other real life restrictions might be imposed. For example, time cannot be non-negative. Am I right? I mean, time cannot be negative. It is a non-negative one. And number of items is a non-negative integer. Distance, length cannot be non-negative. So you should look at these restrictions when you're dealing with word problems. So these are the basically commonly checked conditions before starting with any domain function problem. Okay, let us start with examples. Let me take a rational function as an example. First example in this video. We have to find the domain of the function f of x, which is equal to 2x plus 1 over 6x square minus x minus 2. So if you are getting a rational function is simply a fraction, and in a fraction the denominator cannot be equal to 0. Am I right? Because it would be undefined in case if the denominator is 0. So to find which numbers makes the fraction undefined, we have to create an equation where the denominator is not equal to 0. So I'm going to set this equation not equal to 0 and find the x values. The left side of the equation is a quadratic expression, so we can factorize this. So what are the two numbers? 3x minus 2 and 2x plus 1. In case if you have any query regarding how to factorize any quadratic function, you can refer one of our previous video. Topic is factorizing quadratic functions. Okay. So you have two product of factors. You can equate or you can just set like this. These two factors should not be equal to 0. In case if they are equal to 0, the denominator would become 0 and the function itself would become undefined. So let's solve for x value. So if you add 2 on both the sides and divide by 3, you'll be getting x is not equal to 2 over 3. Same way, let's find the other value. So the second value is negative 1 over 2. So we have to solve the equation that we found in this step. In case we need to factor the problem. In this problem we have got quadratic expression. So we are factorizing. Or else you could just do some algebraic calculation to solve for x if this expression is just a linear one. Now write your answer using the interval notation. So in this case x is not equal to 1 over 2 and x is not equal to 2 over 3. So the interval notation can be, you should just exclude these two numbers from the entire real number. Real number starting from negative infinity to positive infinity. So just exclude these two values. You can imagine a number line and then just cross out these two numbers and consider all the other numbers. That is one way to write the answer for the domain of a function. Imagine a number line starting from negative infinity to positive infinity. Just cancel out these 2 points. Now your interval is going to be negative infinity to negative 1 over 2. There will be a break. And then you have to again start from negative 1 over 2 to 2 over 3. There will be a break again. And then 2 over 3 to infinity. So this can be written like this. So this is the domain for the example question. Hope you're clear with this. Finding domain is very easy. Now let us discuss how to find the domain of a function. I'm going to take an example from radican. Here is a radical function. So before starting, you have to check whether this is an even power. This is fourth root. So this is an even number. So you can proceed finding domain. Determine the index of the radical. In this case, the index is even. So if the index is an even number, set the expression inside the radical greater than or equal to 0. That should be your next step. Hope you all know this is a non-negative one. Now you have to solve the equation. Subtracting 9 from both the sides and dividing the entire inequality throughout by 2, we will get. So whenever you're dealing with this type of problem like radical function, you have to be careful with the signs, because when you're going to multiply or divide both the sides of an inequality by a negative number, the radicand should be reversed. So here our answer, we have to give the answer always an interval notation. So please notice that you have a equal to sign here. It means this number should be included. So you have to use this parenthesis. So the domain is going to be all the numbers greater than or equal to negative 9 over 2 on the number line. So starting from negative 9 over 2 till the positive infinity. So whenever you're going to write the answer for domain of a function, always imagine a number line and mark those points. So you should write the answer depending upon the symbol. Hope you're clear with this example. This is how we find the domain of the radical function. Here is the next example. So how to find the domain of the function? Do you have any idea? By looking at the index itself, you can clearly say that. Determine the index of the radical. So in this example, the index is odd. So the domain is all the real numbers. Okay. You need not set the expression inside the radical greater than or equal to 0 and solve for x. You can directly say that all the real numbers are the domain. So if you're not going to exclude any number from the number line, what will be the result? Starting from the negative infinity to positive infinity. So all the real numbers is the domain for this function f of x. Hope you're clear with this example. So whenever you get question on this topic, you have to read the question carefully. The answer should be written in the form which is mentioned in your question only. So here I'm giving you all the answers in interval notation. Please consider this example. We have a fraction and the denominator should not be equal to 0, and we have a radical in the denominator's place. So set the expression under the radical greater than or equal to 0. It should not be equal to 0 actually. It should be greater than 0. So this is an even function, right? Square root. So if you're shifting x to the right side, it would be x less than 2. So domain would be all the numbers which are less than 2. Hope you're clear with this example. Okay, I would like to give you an example using logarithmic function. Okay, here it is. Again we are getting a fraction. The denominator should not be equal to 0. So set the denominator not equal to 0. And write the expression not equal to. You can take log inverse on both these sides. So log inverse of 0 is 1. Adding 1 on both these sides. Taking square root on both these sides will give you. So x cannot be equal to positive square root of 2 and negative square root of 2. Hope you remember the conditions that we discussed in the starting of this video. Logarithms can only be taken of positive values. So you can set the denominator greater than 0. So if you solve for x, you will be getting, adding 1 on both these sides and taking square root, we will get. So you have to combine these two in your results. So the domain is going to be, draw a number line, mark all these points and consider these in your results. So the domain is going to be, unlike other functions, only logarithmic functions will take a bit more steps compared to the other functions. So in case if you're getting a word problem, then you just have to look for the restrictions. For example, consider a function f of x be the age of the oldest person in a group of x people. So age means a baby after birth, it will be just growing. There will be no baby with age 0. Am I right? We keep on growing, no? So x is greater than 0. X is any integer which is greater than 0 would be the domain for this function f of x, the age of the oldest person in a group of x people. So whenever you get a real life example, just analyze the situation. Hope you're clear with all these examples and the commonly checked condition. In case if you have any query regarding this topic, kindly let me know.